What would mom do? I asked myself this before letting AI anywhere near my kids, and it totally changed everything. I'm just so tired of all those scary AI stories that make everyone worried. But this Guardian Transmission Robot series, it really felt different.
Welcome, tech enthusiasts, to the AiMama.ai podcast. Ever wondered how the most impactful AI company, OpenAI, truly began? It wasn't just a typical startup. It started with deep philosophical worries about AI's future and a shared vision for safety. This led to a crucial decision, building a nonprofit counterweight to big tech. The audacious $1 billion funding pledge, a strategic masterstroke, instantly signaled OpenAI's serious intent. They then deliberately recruited the Avengers of deep learning, not just smart individuals, but a curated team of academic heavyweights and visionary engineers. This unique blend of mission-driven appeal and competitive pay attracted the best minds. This deep dive reveals OpenAI's origins are woven from visionary thinking, cutting-edge science, and intense strategic battles for talent. It's a fascinating story of how a philosophical debate transformed into a global AI powerhouse. Ready to explore more AI breakthroughs? Subscribe to AiMama.ai podcast, share your thoughts, and join our community to stay ahead in the AI revolution. Welcome to the AiMama.ai podcast. Have you ever stopped and wondered how the most impactful AI company on the planet actually got started? I mean, we hear about ChatGPT, all these breakthroughs constantly. But for someone like you who really follows this stuff, what's the real origin story behind OpenAI? Today, we're doing a deep dive. We're gonna try and peel back the layers on OpenAI's beginning. You know, from this first whisper of an idea to how they actually put together that, well, frankly brilliant founding team and the first people they hired. It's a story that's way more complex and honestly more interconnected than most folks probably realize. It's not just, your typical startup story. It's really woven from these threads of visionary thinking, some seriously cutting-edge science, and these intense strategic battles to recruit the best minds. All happening against this backdrop of pretty deep philosophical worries about where AI was heading. You'll definitely find some surprising details. So let's start our deep dive right at the beginning. The foundational moment, the one that really seemed to kick things off for OpenAI. And that was the seed for OpenAI really got planted. And get this, it was January 2nd to 5th, 2015. That's almost 11 months before OpenAI was officially a thing. Absolutely critical meeting. Because you had the key players there, right? Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Ilya Sutskever, all in the same room. And the main conversation wasn't about launching products. It was all about AI safety, the potential existential risks of superintelligence, and this growing feeling that big companies, especially Google, were dominating AI development. They were grappling with this huge question: who's gonna control this powerful tech? Right, so they start with these big anxieties, these philosophical debates. How do they then jump from that to something as concrete as, okay, let's build a counterweight, like an actual nonprofit research lab? What pushed them from just worrying to actually making a plan? That's a really good question. Because it wasn't like a straight line. That conference, it solidified this shared philosophy, this focus on safety. It gave them the sort of moral and intellectual foundation. But the real spark for action, that came a few months later, mid-2015, at this really crucial dinner. And not just any dinner, right? This was at the Rosewood Hotel on Sand Hill Road. prime Silicon Valley territory. You had Musk, Altman, and Greg Brockman there. And it was at that dinner that the fuzzy idea of a counterweight finally crystallized into, okay, a concrete vision, a nonprofit AI research lab. And boom, that vision hits the world stage December 11, 2015. OpenAI is officially announced, pitched as this nonprofit AI research org, and the headline grabber, a massive, almost unbelievable $1 billion funding pledge. The key people driving and initially investing were Sam Altman, then president of Y Combinator, and Elon Musk, who really put in a good chunk of that early money and really pushed that safety vision. But it was definitely collaborative from the get-go. And the strategy behind that funding, you really can't overstate how smart that was. How much impact it had, even beyond OpenAI itself. That $1 billion figure, that was specifically Musk's idea. He argued they needed a really big number. His words were something like, to avoid sounding hopeless, against Google pouring billions into AI. Now, the full billion, that was more of a collective promise, right? They actually collected less initially, maybe $130 million by 2019, and Musk's part was under $45 million. But that headline number, it did exactly what it needed to do. It instantly told the whole world, okay, OpenAI is serious. It framed their mission as being for all humanity, fostered this initial idea of open collaboration, which honestly was a huge draw, especially for getting top researchers interested. Okay, so they've got this audacious funding announcement. Next massive job, getting the people, the minds brilliant enough, maybe crazy enough to actually take this challenge on. And that's where the story of the 11 co-founders really comes into focus. You said they all joined simultaneously, December 2015. So, no single first hire among them. What does that tell us about how they were thinking from the start? It tells you they weren't just hiring smart people one by one. They were building a very specific kind of team right out of the gate. These 11, they weren't just a random collection of geniuses. It was a deliberate mix. Academic heavyweights, practical engineers, visionary leaders, all designed to hit the ground running with both deep research chops and serious execution power. So, the co-founders were Sam Altman, Elon Musk, Greg Brockman, Ilya Sutskever, Andrei Karpathy, Wojciech Zaremba, John Schulman, Trevor Blackwell, Vicky Chung, Dirk Kingma, and Pamela Vagata. Right. And just to clarify for you, Andrei Karpathy was listed as a founding member. He was there right at the inception. And Greg Brockman sounds like he was central to pulling it all together. You mentioned his Napa Valley courtship strategy. That's pretty radical, especially for attracting top-tier talent to a nonprofit. It is pretty radical because it wasn't your standard interview process. Brockman cooked up this idea, invite the absolute top AI researchers to a weekend retreat. Not to grill them on technicals, but to sell them on the mission. To sell them on this fuzzy idea of building safe AI for humanity. So, he convinced 9 out of 10 researchers he invited to join OpenAI. 9 out of 10. That's incredible. And that group basically became the technical heart of OpenAI. So, yeah, that recruitment showed this really unique mix, this powerful mission-driven appeal, but also crucially, the competitive pay. They paid corporate-level salaries from day one, even as a nonprofit. That was a huge draw. It's fascinating. Okay, so they strategically wooed these top minds. Now, let's dig into the talent pool itself. The academic roots, the breakthroughs that really laid the groundwork for modern AI. What's amazing here, as you said, isn't just that they hired smart people. It's that they seem to have deliberately brought together the intellectual heirs of the very pioneers who started deep learning. Think about Ilya Sutskever. His connection to the University of Toronto, Geoffrey Hinton's lab, that's huge. Sutskever did his PhD under Hinton, one of the godfathers of deep learning, right? And Sutskever, with Alex Krizhevsky, actually co-invented AlexNet. And AlexNet's win in the ImageNet competition back in 2012, that basically ignited the deep learning revolution. It was the moment everyone realized AI could actually see. That event basically convinced everyone that AI was about to explode. Google snapped up Sutskever's startup, DNN Research, which is how he ended up at Google Brain before OpenAI poached him. And if Sutskever represented that Toronto school, Andrei Karpathy came from another equally vital place, Stanford's AI lab, under Dr. Fei-Fei Li. Fei-Fei Li was the driving force behind ImageNet, that enormous, labeled dataset that was essential for training models like AlexNet. Karpathy was a PhD student under her, a leading figure in computer vision and deep learning, and he actually taught Stanford's first ever deep learning course. And you know, for anyone who followed that, it was legendary. And then you have Wojciech Zaremba, the Polish roboticist. He was also a co-founder, a PhD from NYU under Jan LeCun, another of the deep learning godfathers. So you have these three major academic lineages represented in the founding team. It was like they were assembling the Avengers of deep learning. And that talent didn't stop there. In 2016, a year after the founding, you saw more key hires. There was Alec Radford, often called the father of GPT, for his work on GPT-1, GPT-2, DALL-E, Whisper. Then Dario Amodei joined in August 2016, who later co-founded Anthropic. And Paul Cristiano came on in January 2017, focusing on AI safety. So, really, the talent acquisition strategy was to bring in the absolute best, pulling from these academic powerhouses. And a really symbolic moment happened early on in August 2016. The delivery of the first NVIDIA DGX-1 supercomputer. You mentioned Jensen Huang, NVIDIA's CEO, personally delivering it. Yeah, he literally hand-delivered this $129,000 AI supercomputer. And there's this iconic photo from that day, right? It shows Musk, Brockman, Sutskever, Zaremba, and this small group of maybe 10 to 20 early employees. It was this tangible symbol of OpenAI getting the serious compute power it needed. For NVIDIA, it was genius marketing, aligning themselves with the cutting edge of AI. For OpenAI, it was validation and the essential hardware to actually do the work. And that explosion in growth, from that initial small team to around 220 people by 2018 to 2019, really underscores how intense the talent war was. OpenAI was playing to win from day one.